Hello everyone. What is Dragon Ball AF? Well, I've explained it twice already, but if I do it one more time, I get a free sundae. Basically, it's a series of fan works that seeks to continue Dragon Ball after GT, hence the AF in the name meaning after future, with the most well-known entry into these works coming from Toyotarou, who would later go on to work on the actual Dragon Ball series in the form of illustrating Dragon Ball Super. This rags to riches story is the dream of any fanfiction writer. After being in a position to influence the actual canon, it's only natural to want to toss in his own ideas. But what if I told you we've seen these ideas before? Many of the ideas in Super were actually remixes of ideas that were first shown off in Dragon Ball AF. Some in big ways and some in small ways. So let's go through and see if we can pin down the origin of a few of Super's plot points. And a brief disclaimer. Obviously, I wasn't there while Toriyama and Toyotarou were discussing what the story of Dragon Ball Super would be. I'm well aware at that point Toriyama was still the leading voice, while only incorporating small suggestions from Toyotarou. The aim of this video is not to give Toyotarou credit for Toriyama's creation, but rather to show off the humble origins of one of the main creative voices in the Dragon Ball series. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's dive in. First and biggest idea we see debut in AF and would later pop up in Super is Goten being a superhero. Sure, in Chapter 230 of Z, we did see Gohan tell Goten if he wants a super suit he should talk to Bulma, but we didn't get to actually see him take up the mantle of Great Saiyan Man until here. Anyone who read the manga exclusive preamble to Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which shows what Dr. Hido did to get arrested, knows that we get to see Goten take up the crime-fighting mantle alongside his buddy Trunks. And in the manga adaptation of the movie, they actually fight Cell Max in their superhero attire. It's clear Toyotarou was just a big fan of the Great Saiyan Man saga in general, and loved seeing people marvel at Mr. Satan, Great Saiyan Man, and briefly, the Golden Warrior. The next similarity is probably the biggest one this manga is known for. It's a Supreme Kai working with an evil Saiyan. Anyone can recognize this is the Goku Black arc, and it was the first arc to significantly diverge from the Dragon Ball Super anime, indicating it's the first time Toyotarou really started making his creative voice heard. I can say confidently that Goku Black is the spiritual successor to Zikor. Sure, Toriyama said he's based off the evil version of the hero archetype popularized by Kamen Rider and Ultraman. That was probably also a very similar source of inspiration for Toyotarou. Maybe I'm reaching, but it really does walk like a duck and quack like a duck. Both characters are antagonists, both have ties to Goku, both have a Supreme Kai assistant. Zikor is a Saiyan Glint hybrid, while Goku Black becomes one through fusion. Both unlock a unique form that could only be achieved through their unique biology, and both are really proud to flaunt their job titles and look down on mortals. You could call this all a coincidence, but it's one big coincidence. Another thing the Saiyan Kai hybrids have in common is that they both fall victim to sealing techniques. Realizing there was no way to kill the immortal Zamasu, Goku learns the evil containment wave. Whereas, once the Z-Warriors realize they're punching above their weight class, Kibito Kai opts to seal Zikor and the Z-Sword in the same way Old Kai was sealed by Beerus. Speaking of which, this has got to be one of the worst aged panels in the entire series. With the sealing spell foiled, the gang has to devise a way to beat someone leagues above them, much like how the gang had to find Beerus' weakness when he first came to Earth. The solution in both cases ended up being a mystic ritual that combines the power of several Saiyans. One to refresh the Dragon Balls, and the other one to unlock Super Saiyan God. This is such a direct, "Can I copy your homework? Sure, just change it up a bit," that it's clear Toyotarou was very attached to the idea of Saiyans combining their power to cast some type of magic spell. And it isn't the last idea related to Saiyan power that gets reused either. Dragon Ball AF introduces the idea of Saiyans being able to use each other's forms, with Vegeta being able to transform into Broly's legendary form. Up until Super, we thought it was something only Broly could do. But Dragon Ball Super introduces Kale, a female Saiyan who can also go legendary. And in case anyone thinks Kale can only do that because she's meant to be Broly but from a universe where he's a woman, in Dragon Ball Super Broly, we can see Vegeta's hair briefly flash green as he goes Super Saiyan, indicating this green-haired form could just be what it looks like when someone masters Super Saiyan to the point where it can't be improved any further. Similar to how future Trunks in Super Saiyan 2 was able to clash with Goku in Super Saiyan 3, because he trained more in Super Saiyan 2. Also, spoiler alert for stuff that isn't animated right now, this could just be me reaching, but in the canon series, Super Saiyan Grade 2 and 3 stopped getting used because the stamina drain was too much of a liability. Vegeta going back to the imperfect grades and using them as a platform to advance to a new form could have been the groundwork for how Goku wasn't happy with losing his individuality and mastered Ultra Instinct. So he went back to using the imperfect Ultra Instinct sign and used that to develop a new form, being true Ultra Instinct. But it's possible I'm just seeing a pattern in the ink blots. What I know for sure isn't a reach though, is that Vegeta's form switching technique used in the last chapter was definitely the blueprint for God to Blue switching. While it's technically not an AF original idea because Goku did something similar on Namek, lowering and raising his power level to catch opponents off guard, it does make it clear Toyotarou was playing with the idea of using ki as efficiently as possible. Which is fitting considering a huge aspect of Beerus' training is ki control. You might think I'm going to say something about Broly being brought back as an idea first tested in this manga, but Broly was so popular that just like Gogeta and Super Saiyan 4, most considered it inevitable that they'd be introduced into the main continuity in some way. Plus the movie where he was reintroduced was written by Toriyama with Toyotarou not having a hand in it. However, one of Broly's few fights might have been a hint at things to come, and that was the battle against Teen Gotenks. We haven't seen the successful fusion of Teen Goten and Teen Trunks in canon, but given that the conclusion to the superhero arc makes it seem like they've chosen fusion as their primary method of getting stronger over unlocking new forms like their parents, and that Toyotarou is obviously a huge Goten and Trunks fan, as evidenced by the extra chapter focusing on their escapades, I wouldn't be too surprised if successful Teen Gotenks gets to ride again in the main continuity. Moving on, we have a shocking reappearance from Android 17 in AF, now on the path to redemption after getting a bit too laser happy. While his redemption gets glossed over in Super, his habit of rooming with Jiro's other creations does carry over, with him hanging out with Android 8 in AF and adopting the Cell Juniors in Super. It makes sense considering these are basically his nephews. And finally, to close off, we had less of a Toyotarou did it first and more of a Toyotarou called it moment. Dragon Ball AF introduces the idea of being able to use the Dragon Balls unnaturally before they finished recharging. And the inciting incident in Dragon Ball Daima was caused by someone using a magical ability to recharge the Dragon Balls. But I can't give Toyotarou credit for this because he had nothing to do with Daima. Like with Broly's return, he just predicted something that would become canon. And I think that's everything. This series was an incredibly worthwhile read. It was very rewarding to see the origin story of the man Toriyama trusted with his creation. The new ideas introduced were a bit out there, but I think Toyotarou proved he has the creativity needed to expand the franchise. And with an editor to help rein in some of his more oddball ideas, I look forward to seeing what a Toyotarou original story will hold. The art was kind of rough around the edges. I think everyone's face was just a bit too bubbly when Toriyama was known for his sharp jawlines. But hey, everyone starts somewhere. I hope you all enjoyed coming along with me, and thank you all from the bottom of my heart. There's not really anything else about Dragon Ball AF that interests me enough to cover it. Maybe someday if I have something thought-provoking to say, then I'll pop back in to give my thoughts. But for now, I think it's time to drink from a different well.